Hello, everyone. Oh gosh, I flicked that in my face. Hello. Welcome to another Mysterious Galaxy virtual event. I am Nick, the Director of Events and Digital Marketer for the bookstore. Today, I know it's not release week, but we are celebrating the release of Wind Daughter by Joanna Ruth Meyer. Hello, Joanna.
Hello.
And in conversation with her tonight, we have Rosamund Hodge, author of Bright Smoke and Cold Fire. Hello.
Hi.
So for those of you who may be joining us that aren't familiar with Joanna, Joanna is the author of Beneath the Haunting Sea and Echo North, which received star reviews from both KIRKUS Reviews and Publishers Weekly. She is also the author of Beyond the Shadowed Earth and Into the Heartless Wood. I love that one particularly. Rosamund grew up as a homeschooler. I love this bio, by the way. Grew up as a homeschooler in Los Angeles, where she spent her time reading everything she could lay her hands on, but especially fantasy and mythology. Hi, Tiffany. Good to see you in the comments there. I wish we could have done this book event earlier, but Comic-Con and other things on the way. But we are here tonight for it, and I'm glad we are, because Wind Daughter has been called a glittering fairy tale of ice and snow, as well as breathtaking and beautiful. So that's glowing review right there. Congratulations, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you. For anyone out there who maybe have not yet gotten your copy, you'll notice there's a link below. They'll take you to our website. You can not only can you buy Joanna's books there, but Rosamund's books are also linked there, so you can purchase those. Help everyone out. And you'll notice we are going to be offering signed and or personalized book plates from Joanna, because Joanna is wonderful in offering that to you. Just make sure if you want to get one of those, if you want personalization, do not wait too long to get your order in to get that. All right. And lastly, before I disappear for a bit, if you have any questions, there's another button below that says Ask a Question, and you can submit anything you would like to ask Joanna later in the program. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and disappear now and leave it to these wonderful authors to take it away.
Hooray. It's just us now.
Hey. Yeah.
How's it going? I like our whole gold blue thing we've got going on with the like.
I was just realizing it's very kind of nice contrast.
Yes, good thinking. Great minds.
Yes, I was absolutely psychically stalking you to make sure I complimented your wardrobe outfit for today.
Well done. Well done. So what are we going to talk about first?
I mean, probably your book.
Yes,
that would be the place to start.
That checks out. And thank you everybody for coming. We're so excited to chat and be slightly awkward on camera and just enjoy everybody's questions. And I'm super excited to be here virtually with everybody.
So first of all, I have to say that I really, really loved the heroine in this book. Now I'm embarrassed about trying to pronounce names right on camera. Satu?
Yep, you got it.
I didn't forget her name, right?
Nope, you got it.
I was reading this book 15 minutes ago.
I like read a book and then it all leaves my brain immediately. It's terrible.
Yeah, but I really love female characters who are powerful and angry and ferocious and do huge things. But I also really, really loved how different Satu is from that kind of archetype, and just getting to read about somebody who finds it almost physically painful to leave the house was, I felt that, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like we don't often see stories about that kind of girl. Like, she's usually the main character's younger sister or whatever, who's just sort of out there in the distance at home, probably vaguely threatened, so that the actual main character will have reasons to go kill dragons or whatever. And it was really cool seeing her be the center of the story.
Yeah, I always say that if I was ever in the apocalypse, I would be the first person to die. But all that to say, I love reading about kick butt women who are off like slaying dragons and being awesome. But I am not that type of a person, even though I admire them greatly. And so I was really excited to write a book featuring a main character who is emotionally strong eventually, but is that like very quiet, highly sensitive, very socially anxious person that just cries all the time. But to give her a story too, and to show her like throughout the book that she's worthy of a story too, even though she is all of those things. Like, I think it's so important to be able to tell stories about all kinds of women, not just the awesome kick butt ones.
And I think the other thing that I really especially loved about this book was how much it was about storytelling. And, you know, the main character is literally the daughter of a storyteller. So she is thinking about the world that way. But also, I just noticed that you too have Funko Pops on your bookshelves. That is awesome.
I don't have as many as I want, but yes, they're there.
Yeah. No, but anyway, so I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm a storyteller, so I think everybody ought to be a storyteller, and this is the most natural way to relate to the world. But you know, I'm correct about that. And I just really loved how much of this book was about stories and storytelling, and Satu learning that the stories she had grown up with from her parents were, you know, not the full story, and that there was this whole, you know, sort of other stories that had been going on, and other stuff that I would love to scream about, but it's kind of spoilers, like extremely spoilers. But how can I put this? I loved especially how much of the resolution of the book rested on recontextualizing story that had already taken place, like not
We need code words for the spoilers.
we need code words, or we need a pop quiz so we can verify that everybody present. I think my video just froze. Is my audio still going?
Yep.
Okay. That is a weird expression on my face. Yeah, it was like to verify that everybody present for the conversation has already read the book, but I guess this is going on YouTube, so we want it to be okay we want that video to be okay even for people who haven't read the book yet, because maybe they'll watch this video and want to read the book.
Yes, indeed. And I'm just going to back up just a second to give a little sort of overview
Sure.
about what the book is about, in case any of our viewers don't know.
No,
This is why we're authors and not like marketing people, right?
Yeah.
But Wind Daughter is a companion to Echo North, and it's about the daughter of the literal North Wind, who can't remember my timeline, but like 400 years ago, he gave up his power and his immortality to be with the woman he loved, Satu's mom. And so the story is about the repercussions of that and how Satu has to go on a journey to collect the threads of her father's power to keep the world from unraveling, all the while pursued by the mysterious and malicious Winter Lord who wants that power for himself. So, circling back to talking about stories and storytelling, Echo North was a retelling of East of the Sun and West of the Moon, which I always tell people who are not familiar is basically Beauty and the Beast with a quest at the end. And so I played with the story a little bit and I didn't follow it exactly, but there was still like the framework to hang that book on. So when I was writing Wind Daughter, I got to go back to that world, but I wasn't like restrained by any sort of fairy tale. So I got to kind of explore and really, really play in that world. But so Satu, she shows up in Echo North and she is a 1-year-old baby. And because her father is a storyteller, I wanted to give her a storytellery name. And so I gave her that name, Satu, in Echo North. And gave myself a present for the companion novel that I didn't know I was going to write yet. And which becomes the literal first line of Wind Daughter is my name means fairy tale. And we get to go from there. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing in that world without being restrained by having to, retell something and playing with themes of story. And I say a lot in there that all stories are true and everybody's story matters. And yeah, it was really cool to play with those themes and see where they went in kind of like bigger ways than in Echo North. And one of my favorite things to do as an author seems to be take a metaphor and make it literal. And I got to do even more of that in Wind Daughter, which was really exciting.
Yeah, I think take a metaphor and make it literal is my favorite thing about writing fantasy, because you can just go for broke on everything. Yep. So I see somebody in the chat used the phrase rivals to lovers. Which is maybe not exactly accurate, but because I think this is, okay, I know this is kind of a spoiler, but I'm just going to come out and say it. This is kind of a villain romance, and I think it's kind of your first. I mean, I guess Into the Heartless Wood was kind of, but I feel like that was more of like monster romance. At least that's how I think it's because I feel like for villain romance, the villain as kind of has to have more of a plan that they're executing on their own initiative. So there's this sense of them being an opponent as opposed to Into the Heartless Wood, where I am absolutely blanking on her name.
Saren.
But Saren, thank you. Yeah, but there she's just kind of like captive and doing what her mother tells her to until she starts to break free. So anyway, congratulations on joining the ranks. It's really fun.
It is.
And yeah, do you want to talk about a little, I don't know, what inspired it, how you approached it?
Yeah, so when I was writing Echo North, I swore up and down that it was a standalone and it would never have a companion novel because it's a standalone, obviously. And I was writing Beyond the Shadowed Earth, which is a companion novel to Beneath the Haunting Sea. So naturally my brain went to, if I were to write a companion novel though to Echo North, what would it be about? And like from that very first wondering, I was like, well, clearly it would be about the North Wind's daughter reclaiming her father's power. And so it was one of those things where I jotted it down to the notes folder on my phone and let it sit there for a while because there was like nothing else to the story. And I just kept coming back to that idea, and I knew there was more there, but I didn't know what it was. And I had to figure out kind of two really big things. One, like, who is Satu? Who is this character besides being the daughter of the North Wind? Like, there's got to be something more to her than that. And my first realization was discovering that she was a highly sensitive person, like myself. There's bits of myself in all of my characters, but Satu is essentially me, just slightly exaggerated. And I told that to my husband, and he said, "Are you sure she's exaggerated, though? Really?" And the second thing was, I knew there was going to be a boy, but I didn't know anything about the boy either. And there was, I can't remember if this was two different occasions or not. I think it was. One was the wondering of what if the boy was spoiler. And I was like, well, that's very interesting. I'm going to write that down. And the other was ruminations on a certain space movie that came out a few years ago that had a very upsetting ending. And I was pondering how I would have fixed the ending, which I submit any writer worth their salt could have done easily, honestly. And so that told me a few things about things, and it kind of snowballed from there. Yes, I did a Rayla fix it.
I love how you danced around it for like 5 minutes and then just came out and said it. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, everyone's done it or imagined doing it, right?
Totally. Yeah. I'm still editing mine.
But yes, I don't know if we can say anything more about it without being totally spoilery. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's well, I know in one of your like little social media posts, you mentioned Doctor Who as one of the comps.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 3/4 of the way through, I was like, wow, this is really Doctor Who, which I mean, for me, especially it vibed with oh gosh, which season was the first one with the 11th Doctor and
Mm-hmm.
Amy Pond,
Mm-hmm.
which is my favorite season and which I'm very partial to, especially because it helped inspire Cruel Beauty partially. And then I was reading Wind Daughter, and I was getting into the endgame, and I was like, wow, this is super timey-wimey stuff. I am so into this. But yeah, the unfortunate side effect of like that sort of plot is that then you can't talk about it without collapsing the whole ball of string.
Yes.
That metaphor didn't quite make it, but you know.
I was tracking. But yeah, to spoil Echo North a little bit, there's a bit of a time travel element in that one as well, which makes me feel very like sneaky, like I put time travel in a fantasy novel. But so I was like, outlining and plotting Wind Daughter. And so as stated in Echo North, which there's good things about having a companion novel written already that you have to follow the rules for, and then there's bad things because it's already there and you have to follow the rules for it. But as stated in Echo North, one of the North Wind's powers is the ability to manipulate time. So I was like, well, I can do more with that in Wind Daughter because naturally. So but again, like taking things I sort of played with in Echo North and like doing even more with it was a lot of fun. And I think it was in draft 3 where I had to really sit down and think about my time travel and think about like my particular theory of time travel that I was trying to adhere to and like make it all work. And obviously, if you think about time travel too much, it doesn't work. But like it all in my mind, it makes sense, and it all kind of like I think it works within itself for what it is. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% philosophically opposed to time travel working in the absolute. But also, yeah, it's very convenient for dramatic effect to ignore some of the finer logical details just so you can have the cool stuff. I mean, and also it is kind of So I think it's okay to spoil a book that came out in 2014. Like in my first book, Cruel Beauty, there's sort of time travel, or at least rewriting the timeline as part of the resolution. And that's how they fix things, which on a strict philosophical level, I think I sort of have issues with changing the past to fix things, because that seems to sort of destroy like consequences. But also on an artistic level, I feel like even time travel tropes that don't 100%, work out can still be really powerful as metaphors. And I think I mean, I find it extremely powerful for the same reason as like I mentioned earlier, the way that there are stories recontextualized in this book. And I found that really powerful because I think we've all experienced, some memory, whether good or bad, retroactively taking on a completely new meaning because of something else that happened. And so, maybe this good thing that was really great at the time, but like it's part of, like essentially a storyline in your life that turned out to be really terrible and depressing. And so now you look back on those memories and they're just not joyful. Or on the other hand, something really awful could turn out to be part of something that was ultimately really beautiful. And then even if that doesn't like fix the bad thing, it gives it a new tone when you look back on it.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm fascinated by, I'm going to simplify this a lot, but there seem to be like two different like time travel sorts of things. Like you've got your Back to the Future one where you like literally go back and you change things, and when you come back, or when you return to the present, things are changed because of what you altered in the past. And then there's another fascinating one where anything that happens always happened, but it might not have been in like a strict, line. That's where you get into the, the wibbly wobbly type of a thing. But so I mean, I'm not going to say which one of those I attempted to pull off, but it was one of those. And it was fun, and it made my brain hurt at the same time, like all good things do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so villain romance, that was a lot of fun. There was one thing in my first draft. I had it outlined in a slightly less that type of a way, but I had to follow chemistry, and so it turned out more that way than I had actually meant it to from the beginning. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was definitely. It was really fun reading a book that embraced being so kind of archetypal, not just in the villain romance, which is very archetypal because, winter and bees and honey and sunshine, opposites. But just, it's a very straight up mythic book. And again, that was one of the things I really loved about the last quarter, that it didn't try to be, normal and relatable. It was just like, okay, we are going on a really long mystical experience / magic dream journey, spoilers and other spoilery things, and it just went there. And I love it when books go all out and fully embrace whatever direction they're heading.
Yes, that If you couldn't tell already, the last quarter is my favorite part of the book because, yeah, I get to go into just all sorts of weird, wonderful places, and yeah, I love a truly weird. I love a weird book. You messaged me today, and you were like, "This is so weird," and I was like, "Thank you." What do you think? Should we take some questions from the audience now?
Sure. I believe I was deputized to read them.
Okie doke.
Okay, so here's one. You mentioned time travel plays a huge part in your books. Are there any other traditional science fiction elements that you'd like to write in a fantasy setting?
It's a very interesting question. I always say I don't really like sci-fi, which is not like 100% true. I very much like science fantasy, like, let's be honest, Star Wars and Doctor Who, they're like fantasy. Like, that's just true. So I don't like the hard, like, sciencey books, kind of make me go like, but I love the idea of like a fairy tale set in space, and those sorts of kind of whimsical big ideas. When you can float out in space and you're not going to die because of whatever whatever scientific reason. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe teleportation. I always said, I'm going to say something really weird, and I'm sorry. It's like 7:30, so I'm just going to be weird for a second. But I always said that if I ever write a sci-fi novel, one of the elements will be that women will give birth via teleportation, because there's just not a real good way to do it. So I think I think you should teleport the babies out of there. I warned you.
Yeah,
That
does seem like it would be a really nice option to have on the table.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like in sci-fi novels, like women are still dying in childbirth. Like, what's that about, So anyways, yes, let's carry on to the next question. I'm sorry, everyone.
Okay, let's see. Another one. Obviously, this book is connected to Echo North, but are every one of your books set in the same world and somehow connected to each other there? I love the little crossover bits. I think I've noticed a connection in all, but maybe into the Heartless Wood. Did you have this huge interconnected web all planned prior?
Ooh, like a Marvel Cinematic Joannaverse. I love the idea of that. So I love. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's definitely possible that all of my books exist within the same sort of like universes sort of systems. But strictly speaking, Haunting Sea and Shadowed Earth are in the same world, obviously. Wind Daughter and Echo North are in the same world. Heartless is in the same world as Wind Daughter and Echo, like in my mind. It just takes place in a different part and like later on in the timeline. So there is a tiny little reference to Heartless in Wind Daughter.
I thought I noticed that. I was like, is this?
Yep.
Is this a cameo?
It is. So I just had to, but I don't know. I think it would be really fun to team up all of my heroines and, I don't know, have them do something crazy. But hey, you never know.
Yeah.
But no, it's not as thought out as all that. But I aspire to that level of.
I just realized, to create the Joanna cinematic universe, you need to start slipping little teaser snippets into the ends of your acknowledgments.
Yes, yes. Perfect. I'll have to do
And
that
then
with the next
finally
one.
everyone
Yes.
would actually read the acknowledgments.
Genius. Genius.
Okay, here's a fun question. Oh, there's like one other person who read the acknowledgments in the chat. That's really sweet. I do sometimes read acknowledgments more now because I'm actually an author, so they're kind of more meaningful to me than when I was a reader. When I was a reader, it was just like, oh, who cares? Maybe other readers are more interested in that kind of thing. But then once I was an author, it was like, oh, now I get why you're writing this extremely emotional thank you to everyone, including your dog, because you feel like this book nearly killed you.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so this question, were there any characters whose importance grew or lessened from the first draft to the final?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Let's see. I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but Satu has a BFF and her name is Ina, and she's amazing. She's the bubbly, take charge, extroverted friend that all of us extroverts have had it, or all of us introverts have had at some point or another. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
But so I always knew that I wanted her to be in it, but I had to find ways to give her more screen time because I wanted to keep that like female friendship thing in there more than just like for like one chapter. So I did have to find some ways to work her into some more scenes, which was really fun. I gave her a little sort of backstory off-screen romance with a frenemy from school, so that was kind of fun.
Honestly, I loved that. I loved how she was kind of running around in a like having her own story in a separate genre from Satu. Like Satu is in this very mythic high fantasy, and her friend is an anthropologist basically, and she's having like an Anne Shirley Gilbert Blythe storyline, and it was just really fun.
Yes. Yeah, that was a really fun way to sort of dabble in like I don't know, like maybe a different choice of a companion novel. It was kind of fun to dabble with that.
Okay, this says it's a question for both of us.
Ooh.
And it is, what's your all-time favorite form of time travel? Can be taken from books, movies, video games, or whatever. Is this the point where we both claim to be time travelers?
That's a secret. Man. I recently read the Firebird trilogy by Claudia Gray. That had a kind of interesting time travel type of a concept in it. Have you read When You Reach Me? It's a few years old now. It's a middle grade. It has like unexpected time travel in it. It's fascinating.
I haven't read that one either.
And of course, I love Doctor Who, although I'm woefully behind on all the new seasons.
Yeah, I'm super behind as well. So this is one of those not strictly time travel so much as writing the timeline things, but the anime Puella Magi Madoka Magica is one of my all-time favorite stories, just across genres, honestly, because it very much has that dynamic of like rewriting the timeline as a way to rewrite the genre of story that the characters are in, and it's like a way to change a tragedy into a story with a hopeful ending, and I find
Oh,
that super powerful and exciting. So that's when did I watch that? Oh yeah, I watched that when I was for the first time when I was most of the way through um editing Cruel Beauty. And so it wasn't like a direct inspiration because I had already written the sort of time travel elements of Cruel Beauty, but then I watched this anime and I was obsessed, and then I was doing like drafts. I think I was in actual edits with my editor at that point, and I was drafting, and I was like, I just quoted dialogue from this anime. I should maybe not go quite that explicit. Maybe tone down the reference there.
yeah. That sounds really cool.
But yeah, that was good. And gosh, of course, also in books, the Connie Willis's time travel novels, they're all really different, and I have really loved all of them. Though I think probably my favorite is To Say Nothing of the Dog, just because it's a delight.
My TBR and to be watched pile is growing now. As always.
I mean, when is it not? Honestly.
Exactly.
Okay, here's another question. What's your writing process like? Are you already working on your next book, or do you take a breather after finishing one?
That is a great question. So publishing books takes a long time. So I have not worked on Wind Daughter since I think last October, maybe. Wind Daughter, I drafted it. I wrote the first draft during the pandemic. Everyone has a pandemic book. This one was mine. I was writing it during the summer of 2020, which was I live in Arizona, and I don't like temperatures above 80, which is a sad story for me. But it was the hottest summer ever on record, like ever on record since they started recording temperatures. It was the hottest. So we couldn't go outside. We couldn't go anywhere. And my husband was very, very busy because he works in pest control. And everyone was stuck at home and noticing that they had bugs and rats in their house. So he was gone all the time. And my then 3-year-old was on nap strike. So this book is thanks to television. So thank you, television. But anyways, I was talking about my writing process. So I realized a while ago that I'm very much a rabbit trail sort of question answerer. So sorry about that. I usually come back around to the original train of thought, but sometimes I lose it. So sorry in advance. But yeah. So anyways, all that to say, I haven't worked on Wind Daughter since I think the end of October when I was finishing up past pages. So I am working on revising a book right now. I don't have anything under contract right now. So just trying to take a little bit of a breather, but also like, I gotta do this, because I'm not good at taking writing breaks. but I don't usually get too much done in the summer because of my now 5-year-old. Takes a lot of entertaining. He's very extroverted, which is a lot. He is great, but we have very different socialization needs. So, but my normal writing process is I have an idea that usually has been percolated for a while, and it feels like it's ready to be written. So I buy myself a notebook because I always like a good excuse to buy a notebook. And I have a notebook for every book that I write because I like to do, I'm brainstorming by hand. And sometimes if I get stuck doing the actual writing, I'll try and write some scenes out by hand. And sometimes that'll shake the cobwebs loose from my brain. But so I do some brainstorming in my notebook. And then once I sort of have a handle of it, I'll write something that happens at the beginning, something that happens in the middle, something that happens at the end. And then I will start my outlining process. I am by nature a very impulsive person. I don't like structure. I don't like doing what I'm told, even when I'm telling myself to do it. So I don't really like the idea of outlines, but if I don't outline, I am like paralyzed by possibilities. I write myself in a corner and I never get out of it. So I overcompensate by doing a lot of outlining. And when I'm done with my outline, I have outlined at least briefly, like every single scene in the novel, and then I will draft it. And since my debut, which went through, I think, almost 10 drafts over a very long number of years, I seem to need about 4 drafts to get a book where it's in, readable condition. So I've just started draft 3 of this book that I'm working on right now. So it's still going through some growing pains and that feeling like I don't know how to write a book. I must have forgot. It's different this time. My husband is always like, you say this every time.
How every book is different.
Yes, I know. They're just not the same. None of them are the same. It's like, all the things I learned in the last book don't apply to this one. I mean, they do, but it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my process. What is your process like?
Well, right now my process is extremely jealous of your process because every one of my books has been through except for Cruel Beauty, my first book, every one of them has been through. I guess the one I'm working on now is only on draft 6, but it's not done yet, and the others have all been through about 9 drafts each. So I keep
so much work.
I'll get more efficient. But yeah, I guess thank you. I guess in the sort of eternal plotter versus pantser thing, I do tend to be very much an outliner as well. I think mostly because for me, outlining is often a lot of the fun part, just because you get the fun of making up story and saying, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then she gives this really emotional speech, and everyone listens and cries and so forth. But you don't have to actually do the work of writing. And then the drafting can be fun too, but also sometimes it's not fun because actual work.
Yes. Yes,
I do.
No, go ahead. Sorry, there's a lag.
We keep time because I do tend to outline pretty. I try to do at least a chapter by chapter outline. I don't always, and that can create problems. I remember I got like 3 drafts into Crimson Bound, and I was like, why is the middle of this book so terrible? And I don't know what to do. And I outlined it all in advance. Why isn't this working? And then I realized, yeah, my outline for the middle is about 3 lines, and it's pretty much just, and then they hang out in this location for a while. Which looks nice, which looks fine when it's just like a 1-page outline. And then when you actually have to expand it, you're like, oh, there's literally nothing happening here. Yeah, I'm
hate
super smart.
the middle of like all books are my nemesis, whatever that word is in plural. But yeah, I always do battle with the middles because like stuff has to happen, but at what cost? I don't know.
Well, it's like stuff has to happen, but often it's not the super cool moments that made you decide to write the book, because those are at the ending.
Yes. And like keeping the pacing moving, it's a whole thing. I go through it with every book. Like, the middle again. Can't we just have a beginning
And also
and
your
an
characters
ending?
have to keep. Also, in the middle, your characters have to keep entering and exiting rooms, and that is such a pain to describe.
Sometimes I will spend like so long trying to get a character to enter a room. I don't know why it's so hard, but it is. It's very hard.
To be fair, in real life, sometimes it's very hard to enter a room. So
that's true. That is very true.
You're just standing in the hallway like, I don't want to be here and I don't want to talk to people and I'm going home.
Exactly. I would say that you and me and Satu should all hang out, but I think all of us would be like, I'd rather stay home today.
I mean, we could do that introvert thing of all sitting in different corners of the room and not talking while we do our separate like knitting or whatever.
Which is just lovely. Yeah.
It is so nice.
Yes. It's very relaxing. It's like you're hanging out with people. Sort of,
Except you don't have to interact with them.
Exactly.
Which is the ideal.
Exactly. Do we have a few more questions?
Yeah, okay. Here's a nice one. Have you written short stories besides full books? Is the writing process different?
I'm really bad at short stories. Echo North was originally supposed to be a short story. I wanted to write it for a contest in my pre-published days. It was my aspiration. It was like the Writer's Digest short story competition. I was like, I'll enter it and I'll win and I'll get famous. It'll be awesome. But I tried to write it and it's only supposed to be 10,000 words. And I got to 10,000 words and I was nowhere near anything resembling like a full story. And for reference, Echo is like 89,000 words. So it needed a few more words.
Just a few.
Yes. So short stories are really hard for me. I did write one that's set after the epilogue of Into the Heartless Wood, and it's in the back of the paperback. But it's cheating a little bit because I already had an entire book where I had explored the characters, so I didn't have to do much world building. But yes, I admire people that are good at short stories, but I am not one of them. There's just too many things I don't know. It's too much stuff to write about. I don't know.
Yeah, I have written. So I started out when I was like, before I was published as an author, as a novelist, I did publish some short stories in like a few. It was just online magazines, but I would consistently get this feedback, and I had started out trying to write short stories before novels because I had internalized the idea that short stories are the practice that you do before novels, which I don't think is actually a really good idea, or it's not a very close connection because, as you mentioned, they're totally different. But I was trying to write short stories, and then I would consistently get the feedback on my short stories that this feels like it could be a novel, and maybe should be, because I would be trying to cram in so much plot and world building, and I would just be like, well, obviously, this thing that the character does won't be meaningful unless we have this entire complicated set of world building behind it. And then I moved on to writing novels, which are also really overcomplicated and stuffed with world building. So maybe I didn't solve my problem.
Just made it bigger.
But,
yeah. Yes, I feel that in my soul.
The best short story writing advice I ever got, which I don't remember where I got it. I think I just read it on somebody's blog or something, or I don't know where. But it was this comment that a short story has to have just one idea or image, and it's just about that one thing. And I've written a few short stories that I feel like did follow that rule, and that I am pretty proud of because I think they work. But also, it's so much easier to think of novel-sized stories, and kind of you mentioned it being easier to write that little sequel short story because you'd already established the characters in the world. And for me, that's one of the things that I like about writing at novel length, that you get extra time to make people care about your characters. You don't have to do it in 3 sentences.
Yes.
I ended up talking about myself. Sorry.
Oh no, it was fascinating.
Okay, what other questions do we have?
We're clearly both supposed to be novelists.
Yeah. Okay, so this one says it's for both of us. What are you currently reading?
I am listening to the Silmarillion audiobook, which has been fabulous. I just started it on Wednesday to listen to when I'm coming back into dropping off my son and picking him up from kindergarten. So that's been really fun. I'm not an audiobook person, and so I thought I'd start with the Silmarillion. It seems like a good idea. And then I am just finishing up Shadow and Flame by Mindy Arnett, which is the second book in her Onyx and Ivory duology.
I think I saw that title at some point, but I don't know anything about that duology. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, it's quite good. It has a lot of monsters in it, so you would like it.
Nice. Yeah, I would be into that. So until about an hour and a half ago, I was currently reading Wind Daughter because I have not changed since I was in college. I'm at least no longer reading underneath the table while actually here. So I've gotten a little bit more responsible.
What are you going to read next?
I'm like, what else have I been reading? My brain is instantly going blank.
I know.
Being asked that question makes all memory disappear.
Yes.
Well, I've read the first 2 pages of this, so it's kind of currently reading, but I'm pulling it up on my phone so I can remember the title. What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, who is one of my favorite. So I discovered a few years ago that I actually like horror as a genre. at least sometimes, and she's like my favorite author in the genre. She writes genuinely terrifying but weirdly cozy horror novels. Um, uh, so she just had a new one come out, and so far all of her, like, she's written a whole bunch of novels, but her, like, specifically horror genre ones uh have so far all been kind of inspired by like an old classic or horror work. So like trying to make my brain remember things like book titles. My favorite one of hers, The Hollow Places, is based on like a 19th century horror short story called The Willows by, I think his name was Algernon something something. I've forgotten the rest of his name, which I actually went back and read the original short story afterwards, and like, wow, it was actually super creepy. Good job, 19th century Algernon somebody. But anyway, I think her newest one is this newest one is based on The House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. It's got a dead rabbit on the cover, so you know that's creepy. And but yeah, I've only read 2 pages of it.
That's awesome. I'm like too chicken and squeamish for horror.
I was too chicken and squeamish for a really long time, and then I discovered that I could read or watch some slightly horror things without dying of terror. And then I was so excited by how strong this made me feel that I immediately went out and read and watched a bunch of things that gave me like really horrifying attacks of the creeps and caused me to sit up awake at night. But
it's a dangerous
honestly,
road.
no regrets.
That's awesome.
Hello again. I am popping in because we are just out. We're just about out of time, but I wanted to make sure we left enough room that both of you can tell everyone watching where they can find you on social media. Let's have you go first, Joanna.
Yeah, so you can visit me on my website, which is just joannaruthmeyer.com. And I'm at Gamwyn, GAMWYN, on all social media, but I'm mostly on Instagram.
And my website is rosamundhodge.net. And the social media I'm most on nowadays is Instagram, where I am Rosamund_Hodge, and you can see my beautiful, beautiful dog. Like, that's pretty much all I post. Because why would I post anything else?
She is.
Why
really
would you post any of your
though.
writings? Yeah. Why would you post what your daily word count is or anything? Dogs. Right, there you go.
She's way cuter than my word count.
To each their own. Well, again, Joanna, congratulations on Wind Daughter. Thank you so much for being here and letting us talk about it and celebrate your book's release a few weeks ago, mind you, but yes.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome.
Yes, and Rosamund, thank you so much for being conversation partner. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you. It was really fun, and it was really nice to be here.
And for those of you who are joining us, thank you so much also for being here. It's without your support, we're not able to, have wonderful events like this with authors that just totally should be celebrated. If you haven't yet gotten your copy, you can definitely do that. Click the link below, go to our website, and don't forget, for about a week, we're going to be taking signed personalizations of book plates for Joanna. So make sure you get those in before it is too late. All right. I hope everyone has a great evening, day, time, whatever future time or place you're in right now. And we hope to see you at the next event. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.